Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 77 and it's amazing. We go out to Reno for my first ever running up event. I've been wanting to go for a long time. I finally got the chance. In this one, I actually cover 3 different sessions that I played out there. Lots of running up guys make cameos. Think you're going to enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started. Once I arrived at the Peppermill, I'm pumped up and ready to play. It's late, but I'm already stuck $115 from the speeding ticket that I received earlier, so I want to at least recover that. It's been 5 years since I've been to this poker room. It's one of my absolute favorites. Tons of people are here for some running up action, including your boy, Chris Moneymaker. I buy into the 3-5 game for 1,000 and get the session started. Here we're dealt ace-jack offsuit in the hijack and open to 15. We're gonna get this hand dealt to us a lot in this video, so prepare yourself now. The big blind is our only customer. We're heads up. The flop comes ace-jack-6 with 2 hearts. Thank you very much for top 2, Mr. Dealer. The big blind checks. I bet 20. Big blind calls. The turn is the queen of spades. The big blind checks. This time I bet 40. He calls again. The river is the king of diamonds. There are 4 to the straight out there. It's confirmed. The dealer hates us. Big blind leads out for 100. This is not an easy decision for me. The opponent is almost never going to have a set here or a 2-pair hand that's better than mine. Still, there are plenty of combos he could have containing a 10 that have me beat. In a vacuum, this might be a call. I don't think that this particular player is bluffing though. I reluctantly let it go, and we'll never know if it was correct. I wish he'd show, but he didn't, so we're off to a rough start in Reno. On to the next hand. We pick up ace-jack offsuit in the big blind. The cutoff limps in. The small blind, who appears to be a pro, raises to 25. It's kind of a strange spot for us. I think the small blind could be doing this with a relatively wide range. I'm probably ahead. The problem is that if I call, I'll almost definitely get a call from the limper behind me. I'll be second to act in a 3-way pot. I elect to 3-bet to 80. This gives me the opportunity to win the hand pre-flop, or if I do get called, I'll most likely be playing a bigger pot heads up in position. Cutoff folds, the small blind calls, the flop comes ace-7 deuce, all diamonds, the small blind checks. I bet 80, the small blind calls, the turn is an offsuit 9, the small blind checks again. I don't want this pot to get too crazy, I check back. The river is another 7, the small blind checks for a 3rd time. Part of me wants to check back, but I believe I'm ahead. I'm just not sure what I can get called by that's worse. There's also some chance my opponent could have a hand like ace-queen and have me beat. I put out a tiny bet of 70. This should get a call from all worse aces and even some underpairs. The player calls, I turn over ace-jack, and it's a winner. No, your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. We get ace-jack again. This time of the suited variety. The under the gun player opens at 20. I expect him to have a tight range from this position, so I'm not going to 3-bet. I call from the cutoff. The small blind calls, the big blind calls as well. 4 of us see the flop. We're in position. It comes queen 10-5, all clubs. We flop the nuts in a multi-way hand. The opponents check to us. There are a few good reasons to bet. Number 1 is that we have a great hand and we want to get as much money in as we can. There are multiple opponents, so someone might be able to call us. The only issue is that all the high clubs are accounted for except for the king. If I bet into 3 other people, I'm worried it might look too strong and no one's going to have anything they'd feel comfortable calling with. I check for deception and to give someone either a chance to improve or possibly they'll take a shot at bluffing the turn. I don't really like this check, but in the heat of battle, sometimes I do things I end up not liking when I think about them later. Dealer puts out the 4 of hearts on the turn. The opponents once again check. Now I bet 50, hoping it's going to look like I'm trying to steal it after everyone checked for a second time. No one has anything. The players all fold. We win a small one. Next we pick up pocket 6s in the big blind, and things are about to get crazy. Under the gun opens at 20. He's a new player. Under the gun plus 2 calls, middle position player calls, and I call. The flop comes king 10-3 rainbow. I check. Under the gun bets 40. Under the gun plus 2 calls, middle position player raises to 140. I'm not so sure he's got a big hand. I've been playing pretty snug, so if I put in a re-raise, I should get a lot of credit. I'm ready to make a move. I take my hand back, and then I reach for my cards and toss them directly in the muck. People sometimes ask to see what happens when I miss flops, so here you go. The answer is nothing. Also, just need to show you guys I play hands other than ace-jack. Now we've got queen 9 of hearts in the cutoff. Onto the gun limps in. I could reasonably raise, call, or fold with this hand under these circumstances. I raised a 20, the button calls, onto the gun calls as well. The flop comes 6-6-4 with one heart. Would have been a sweet flop for the last hand. Onto the gun checks. We've got 2 overs with a backdoor flush draw. I bet 35 to maybe get some better ace, king, or queen highs to fold. If a queen or heart or possibly 9 comes on the turn, I'll bet again. No need for that. The players fold, we win. It's late. The remaining opponents are either good or short. I've got a tournament in a few hours. I need to get sleep, so I call it a night. Short session, ended up winning 190, ran well. Happy just to play for a bit, and then I go back to the hotel room. Tomorrow it's a 10 a.m. start time for the Moneymaker event, so I'm gonna try and get some rest before that. It's day 2 today, super excited, 10 a.m. playing in an $86 tournament. I've got a chance to win a platinum pass. I'll keep you guys updated if anything interesting happens. I head up to the tournament area. I've got my mind on first place in that 30K platinum pass. It's absolutely packed up here. I buy into my first ever running up event and I take my seat. We begin with 10K in chips and we're gonna fly through these tournament hands, so buckle up. Blinds are 100-100 with a 100 big blind ante. We get off to a good start picking up pocket aces early. I raise pre-flop and get 3 colors, then I take it down with a bet on an 8-8-7 flop. Next we call a massive 4-bet jam with ace, king, and diamonds in the cutoff. Fortunately, we're not up against aces or kings. We're against the middle position player's ace, king offsuit. We don't get the 3-diamond run out we were hoping for, so we chop this one. Here we open with 10-9 of diamonds from early position. We get 2 callers, and we're second to act. We bluff the flop with 2 overs and backdoor draws. The big blind calls. We get a card that gives us no additional equity. The big blind checks. We fire away, not quite sure why. Then we get check raise and we have to fold. I've got this disease where I like to bluff off lots of chips when I'm potentially drawing dead. It's not necessarily contagious, but if not properly dealt with, it can be tournament life threatening. It's level 5 now. Blinds are 200-400 with a 400 big blind ante. We've got just over 10 big blinds in front of us. We're the short stack. Folds to us with ace deuce offsuit in the small blind. We rip it in, and the enormous stack in the big blind lets it go. In level 6, we're dealt ace king offsuit in the big blind. Onto the gun opens huge to 5 big blinds. I jam with my short stack of about 10 big blinds. Onto the gun calls the all in with ace jack suited. We flop a king, he flops a gut shot straight draw. The turn is an ace. The player doesn't improve. We get the double up. Next we rip it in for probably too many big blinds with king jack offsuit in the cutoff. I don't want to say exactly how many it was. It was 20. Hey, it's an $86 rebuy tournament and we're about to go on break. I want either a much bigger stack or I don't mind busting and possibly rebuying. The big blind calls the all in with ace deuce of diamonds. No problem. We flop a king. The player flops a deuce, but doesn't improve after that. We stack our first player of the tournament and now have over 20K going into the first break of the event, good for around 35 big blinds. We're in pretty good shape, but the blinds are huge. We're just gonna have to be getting it in pretty frequently. This is the running up stage behind me, the final table set. Jason Somerville's there. Really cool event. Lots of running up guys are here, and it's fun to hang out with them. My table breaks and replaced at Spraggy's table. He's a running up streamer and good dude. Also, I hear he's a massive Liverpool fan. Blinds get very large compared to chip stacks quickly. Every pot is important now. My stack goes down to 17K when I pick up ace queen of diamonds onto the gun +1. Onto the gun opens to 2.5K. I shove. The onto the gun player calls. He turns over pocket 9, so we're flipping. The flop comes jack 10-5 with 1 diamond. We've got 2 overs and a gutter. The turn is a queen. Gives us the lead. We just need to fade an 8 or a 9. The river is a deuce. We get a big double up and now have 36 big blinds. Level 10 begins, marking the end of the rebuy period, and in one hand, I pick up queen 4 offsuit in the small blind. Folds to me. It's kind of a tricky spot, not quite sure what to do. The big blind, who's a YouTube viewer, has a very short stack of 6.5 big blinds. I shove, hoping to get a fold. He calls with king 10 suited, and he flops a flush. Looked up the situation later on an app called Snapshove, and I was indeed supposed to jam. That made me feel a little better, except I lost the hand. Later I pick up king 9 offsuit in the small blind. Middle position player limps in. I call. The big blind checks. The flop comes king, king, deuce. We've got trips. Checks the middle position player. He bets 2,500. I call. The big blind folds. The turn is a jack. We both check. The river is a 4. I make it 6K. The player calls, and to my surprise, he has pocket queens. Didn't expect that after he limped in pre-flop. We're back up to 36K, but I don't get a hand for a long time. It's now level 12. Blinds are 1K, 2K with a 2K big blind ante. 243 out of the 825 entrants remain, hoping to get that 30K platinum pass. 128 players will make the money. I've got 14 big blinds and queen jack suited in the cutoff. It folds to me. I rip it in there. This is not a good idea to do when the big blind has pocket kings and has you covered. He calls. Let's see the run out.
And we are not doing great. And we're down. All right, nice one with you guys.
Good game, mate.
Thank you for playing.
Well, blessed the tournament. I think there's about 230 people left, maybe less than that. And there were 825 entrants. That was interesting. I don't really know what I'm doing in tournaments, so that was just fun to play, but we are out.
There's D Moon Girl behind me. She tries to get in a late photo bomb, but I'd already turned off my camera. Her and I get lunch, then I take a long nap. After that, we are headed back down to the poker room for technically our third poker session of the day. Last night we started the session at like 12:30, I think. Played the tournament, busted that. Time to win some money in cash. I buy into the 3-5 game for 1,000. We're playing cash, so of course I pick up ace jack again. I'm in the big blind. Mr. Bill's in the game. He's a poker vlogger as well. He opens a 20 from under the gun. Under the gun plus 2 calls. Player in middle position calls. I call to close the action. The flop comes jack 8-6 with 2 diamonds. We've got top with a nut flush draw. I check and it ends up checking through. The turn is another 8. I bet 45. Mr. Bill calls. The other players fold. We're heads up and the river is another jack. We boat up. It's a good card, but it could be tough for me to get paid here. I bet 50. Mr. Bill folds, saying that he only had a 6. Guess what? We're dealt ace jack again. I know. I'm tired of it too. We're on the button. Hijack limps in. I raise a 20. The big blind calls for the short stack. The hijack also calls. 3 of us see the flop. It's jack 7-5 with 2 spades. Again, we've got top with a nut flush draw. Both players check. I bet 25. Big blind lets his hand go. The hijack calls. We're heads up, and the turn is the 10 of spades, giving me the ace high flush. The hijack checks. I bet 45. The hijack calls again, and the river is another 10. The hijack now leads for 75. He doesn't seem like the type of guy that makes boats all that often, so I put in the raise, making it 250 total. He decides he doesn't want to donate to the Bradley Owen charity for lanky white guys. He lays down his hand. We still get 3 streets of value and win a medium-sized pot. Finally, we pick up a hand that's not ace-jack. We get into a super interesting one with pocket aces under the gun. I open to 15. Mr. Bill calls from under the gun plus 1. Under the gun plus 2, 3 bets to 60. His name's Chris. He's a YouTube viewer and a good player. Folds back to me. Chris's 3-bet signifies an extremely strong hand since I myself am going to have a very narrow opening range from under the gun, and he thinks he's got a better one. He won't be bluffing all that often in this spot. Been doing a lot of studying lately on upswing. What I find extremely helpful is the pre-flop range charts. They have them for almost every scenario pre-flop. This is what my under the gun, raise first in range should look like according to upswing. Mainly consists of very strong hands. Now let's take a look at how narrow a 3-bet range should look like from under the gun plus 2 versus an under the gun open. Based on this chart, shouldn't even be 3-betting me with ace-king offsuit. It should only be with aces, kings, ace-king suited, sometimes queens, and then king-jack suited and ace-10 suited as bluffs. Once I face a 3-bet, I'm hoping he'll have something he'll be willing to get it in with pre-flop. I put in a 4-bet to 225. Let's go back to the chart and see what hands I should be 4-betting with. As you might imagine, it's almost nothing. The only automatic one is aces. Even with ace-king and pocket kings, I can theoretically just flat. Mr. Bill folds his hand, which is probably a good idea, and Chris flats my 4-bet. If Chris is playing how he should be, he's a good player, so I imagine he is. He's basically only going to have ace-king suited, pocket kings, and at the very bottom of his range will be pocket queens, but sometimes he won't be 3-betting me with that hand, and if he does, could even potentially fold it since my 4-bet range in this exact scenario should only consist of hands that he's basically flipping with or have him crushed. The flop comes King 10-6 with 2 clubs, and this is a pretty terrible flop for us since kings are a very, very likely hand that our opponent could have. There are 3 possible combinations of it, only 2 combinations of ace-king suited, and 6 combinations of pocket queens, which may not be able to get value from even if he does have it. I don't really know what to do. I end up checking. He checks back. The turn is another king. This reduces the amount of pocket king combinations from 3 down to 1. The 2 possible combinations of ace-king suited had now overtaken us, so if he played his hand correctly pre-flop, the exact same number of combos that were beating us on the flop are still beating us, and this ends up being kind of a neutral card, except if we throw in queens in the opponent's pre-flop range, that ends up being a substantial percentage of his holdings. 6 out of 9 potential hands that we're up against will be pocket queens. I put out a small bet of 150. Queens might even want to fold since every hand that I should be 4-betting with has queens in horrible shape. The player ends up flatting. This is not a situation I enjoy being in because he could certainly be doing this with pocket kings and ace king still. The river is another 6. I check. I might have to give up to any bet. I'm kind of at the bottom of my range. I'm thrilled that it checks back. I turn over the aces. The opponent does have queens. We win a big pot, holding our breath the entire time. We're up over 650, and now we can breathe again. To make things even better, Kevin Martin's in the building playing mixed games. We say hi to him. He's a run-it-up team member and one of the coolest and nicest guys in poker. He's having a great year so far. He crushed in Reno. I mean, I can go on and on saying great things about him. All of a sudden, Andrew sits down at my table. He's okay. Back to poker. Here we're dealt ace-queen offsuit on the button. We open to 15. The small blind 3-bets to 60. That's Chris, who I got into the last hand with. I call. The flop comes king 7-3 with 2 diamonds. Small blind bets 40. Not a great flop for us. It's not that much money though. The problem is, I don't know if any turn card will give me the lead. If I had a diamond, I might peel. With only 1 over, I keep the play simple and I fold. Chris gets the semi-bluff through, showing Jack 10 of diamonds. I get moved to the main game after that. Andrew gets moved to it shortly after as well, and we get involved in a hand that can only be described as extraordinary. I'm dealt 6-4 suited in the small blind. Andrew raises to 15 on the button. I call. The big blind also calls. The flop comes king 7-3 with 2 clubs. We all check. The turn is a 4. I make bottom pair, and I've got a gut shot. That's when I start recording.
I got the best hand, guys. Check. Boom. Horse. Right.
You were lying.
Right.
Yeah.
Beat him. Got him. This guy raised pre-pop.
The game isn't great, so shortly after, I rack up, booking a solid win. The night isn't quite over. Andrew and I watch Kevin play some blackjack, then we both jump into a Pai Gow game with some run-it-up crew. This is the first time I played in 6 years. My very first hand, I make a straight flush on bottom, but of course, like a clown, I don't have any money on the bonus, which pays 50 to 1. I lose about $15 total in the Pai Gow streets before calling it a night and heading to bed. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Helps out the channel a ton. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to get back to you. I'm gonna have another video coming out soon that's gonna cover the second half of this Run It Up Reno trip. That should be super cool. And I mentioned earlier in this video, I've been studying some upswing stuff. I have links down below in the description box for all the resources that I use to get better. So if you're looking to improve yourself, then maybe check those out. The last thing is that Andrew and I have a few meetup games coming up. The first one is going to be Tuesday, December 11th at the WestGate. Cards will be in the air at 6:30 p.m. We're going to be playing 2-3 no limit. Then on Saturday, December 15th, we're going to have a hometown meetup game for me. I'm super excited about that one. We're going to be playing 3-5 no limit at Grayton Resort and Casino just outside San Francisco, and that's going to start at 2 p.m. So if you're around, please come hang out with us, have some drinks, and play poker with Andrew and I. Hope you're all doing well. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.